everybody. My name is Shaun Carvalho. I am the head of safety for Shawmut Design and Construction. Shawmut is a $1.5 billion annual revenue company that is a construction management firm servicing clients all across the United States. Today's topic is on culture and technology and the keys to risk prevention. And if I can explain a little bit on what that means, really in the world of Shawmut, we have a pretty big challenge, much like many of you that are watching this video today. We have over 1,000 employees. We deliver over 500 projects annually. And in order to do that, we have a lot of transactions that have to take place throughout the year. And those transactions are really what keep, a lot of us up at night, because safety is just so constant. So we issue over 8,000 contracts to unique partners throughout the year. We see those partners employ tens of thousands of individuals on our sites. And so the risk that we see on a daily, weekly, and annual basis is pretty high. And so we have a couple different ways that we help to manage that risk. And today I want to talk you through how we go about doing just that. It really has to start with establishing a strong culture of safety. This is led from both top-down approach and bottom-up, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. One thing that we definitely strive for and see an absolute need in our risk prevention protocols is using technology. Hardware, software, we must have it. It has to be part of the equation. So we have this culture of safety that's really powered a lot by technology. And I'm going to walk you through some of the steps that we take in our approach to using technology, quite frankly, at Shawmut. And then once we get the right information, the right engagement, and the right data coming back to us, what do we do with it? How do we act on it? Is it reliable? Is it actionable? Does it make a difference? And that's where I'm going to end with, is just that, the results. So we'll get right into it today and talk through establishing a culture of safety at Shawmut. I explained our risk and our kind of worries and what keep us up at night, again, just like many of you. And our goal is not just bare minimum compliance, not having no OSHA citations. Our ultimate goal is to make sure that every person that works for us on our job sites leaves at the end of the day better than how they arrived. And what that means to us is that while folks are working for us, they're becoming more educated. We all know that accidents happen on construction projects. They're dangerous work environments. People get hurt. We absolutely want to prevent that. We don't want anybody getting hurt on our job sites. But what's really goes undocumented is how many people get hurt at home, or driving to and from the job site, or in any other area of life, whether family or friends, that have a negative experience. What we want to do, what our ultimate goal at Shawmut is to really provide a lot of education so that we can, we can all live our best lives. We can come to work tomorrow feeling better than today. We can be more productive. So that's our ultimate goal, is to make sure that everybody working with and for us leaves at the end of the day better than how they arrived. And to do that, we have to build a strong culture of safety. And as I previously mentioned, that's two-prong approach, top-down, bottom-up. And so I'd like to start with a top-down approach. Safety has got to be a business imperative. And so we, over 10 years ago, set out on this journey for a world-class safety organization, realizing we had a lot of work to do. When we hired a third-party company to come and do this assessment, little did we know we had a lot more work to do than we thought. And they gave us a list of items that we really needed to tackle. And one was just so simple that we didn't even recognize it ourselves. And that's having a stated core value around safety. We had core values around innovation and leading edge and finding a better way and client service, but we didn't have one around safety. So that was an easy thing to do. We created that core value, publicly stated core value to actively drive a safe and injury-free environment. And that is the responsibility of every Shawmut employee, not just safety or the executive team, but everybody at Shawmut. So that really kind of laid the foundation for establishing this culture of safety. Moving on, we realized we weren't communicating enough around safety. And so what we quickly did was establishing that safety, we had to have a safety moment at the beginning of every meeting with 5 or more people meeting together. We had to have a safety moment. Didn't want to overthink this too much, so it could begin with a recent experience on a job site, in the office, or at home that somebody wants to share. It could be as robust as establishing emergency procedures for the event that we're going to have, whether it's a town hall meeting, a company meeting, annual shareholder meeting, job site meeting with a lot of people. We want to make sure that we're prepared for an emergency. Should there be a need for a building evacuation or a medical incident, we want to be able to respond swiftly and make sure that everybody's safe. So we'll begin every meeting with a safety moment. That really does help us establish that culture of safety early on. And so everybody comes in with the right mindset. That helps create these safety champions. And I'm going to talk in a moment around kind of boots on the ground and bottom-up approach, but having safety champions integrated throughout the entire organization is really obviously key to having sticking power with safety. And so talking about safety, having a stated core value, discussing safety at the highest levels of the company on a very regular basis really helps to create that culture of safety. And so I'd like to shift a little bit and kind of walk through how we create those champions of safety throughout all levels of the organization and beyond. We start with a safety steering committee, a corporate safety steering committee. This committee meets on a monthly basis, has been around for well over a decade now, is always chaired by an executive. So we've got an executive sponsor that takes on the term for 2 years. Most recently, we've got our chief operating officer as our chairperson. Many of the vice presidents within the firm have been the chairperson, including our now CEO. And this is a true cross-functional team representing all the regions that we work and all the departments within the company. And so we've got a really good collective of creativity that meets on a monthly basis and establishes 3 big goals for the year for safety. And they do this by talking through regional safety committees, by talking with the safety department, and cultivating these ideas that come up and really being the champion across the company. And I just mentioned one thing, kind of that next level down is these regional safety steering committees that we have that are established in our 3 major regions: New England out of Boston, New York out of New York City, and the West out of Los Angeles. Each 3 regions have their own regional safety committee that's comprised of another cross-functional team filled with local experts, understanding the market, understanding the clients in the area, the local jurisdiction, because they're all very unique. And so they have that local expertise that's really looking at how do we advance the ball with safety in our particular area. As they come up with ideas, the groundswell rolls up back up to the safety steering committee at the corporate level. And these regional safety committees also help to establish a subcontractor safety committee. These subcontractor safety committees are comprised of some local experts from the region and our core sub-base within those regions. And the subcontractors will bring their principals and or safety staff to these meetings where we meet fairly regularly and talk about kind of the nuances within that particular region, how we can advance, how we can be better, what the subs need from us, what they're seeing across with our competitors, with our clients. And it's a real good way to share information back and forth as we advance to maybe improved process or procedure or trying on new things. It's a great opportunity to share information here. And I'm going to get to a couple stories in a moment. Take that down another level from the region and put it onto a project. On individual project sites, we often have project safety committees. Again, another cross-functional team. It's important to have that in all these committees that we create. So it's not just the top, it's not just the bottom or the middle. It's clearly throughout. So on the project safety committees, what we want is our superintendents to be engaged, our safety staff to be engaged, the foreperson to be engaged, a steward if we're on a union project, and also individual craft workers. We want to make sure we've got a good cross-section of folks that are willing to share their ideas, try to meet on a regular basis, walk the project, have a safety audit done throughout the job site, correcting things immediately before they turn into a dangerous situation, and really just communicating expectations around safety. And what these teams often do is identify incentives for the project. People that are working extremely safe and really being that safety champion, let's give them recognition. Projects and crews that are working extremely safe and being those safety champions, again, raising up other folks around them, we want to recognize them as well. And the last here is to talk about pilot test groups. All of these committees have the opportunity to raise up an idea and work on a pilot for a variety of different reasons. And so having these structured committees in place really allow for us to act fast, be very nimble, and get results quickly. I'm going to talk through some of that, particularly with technology, but this really is for really anything that we want to try to be innovative with in safety. And so next I'm going to talk about innovation and continuous improvement. Innovation and continuous improvement are key staples to any good safety program. Once you have that written document and you put it out there that you've got a new process, tomorrow it's going to be changed or probably needs to be relooked at. So you have to constantly evaluate your workplace and environment and making sure that you're doing the very best for everybody that's going to be around you. So we constantly look at our process and protocols. And what's really cool that we try to do is if there's a significant change that's warranted or desired from a variety of different sources, we can really go back to our committees and ask their feedback before we make it a rule. Certainly, our executive leadership team is going to provide the right direction for the company and make the ultimate decisions as to where we want to go. But they're going to be fed from a lot of different sources. One I want to tell you about is a few years ago, I had a superintendent that came to me and asked me about Christmas treeing steel, a multi-rigging operation where you hook up multiple pieces of structural steel to a crane at the same time, all compliant with OSHA regulations. And he said, that seems really dangerous. I saw this happen on another project. The steel was swinging all over the place. And don't you think it's too dangerous? We should just not allow that on our sites altogether. I said, well, it is allowed for OSHA. And it seems like it could hurt our iron workers when they're trying to erect steel in a productive manner. So I don't know. So what I did is I went to our subcontractors that do that type of work in our safety committee and asked them what their idea was, what their thought process was around if we were to eliminate multi-rigging operations. And they just simply said, no, it's safe. We follow OSHA. We've got qualified riggers, trained folks erecting the steel, qualified crane operators. We know what we're doing. And as long as you continue to ask for the right information, we're providing it for you. There's no reason to do that. And so we ultimately decided against it and said we're not going to make that change because it sounds like it makes sense, but in the long run, it really would have been a hindrance to a lot of our subcontractors, and we don't want to do that. So it was a very good collaborative approach, which ultimately led to us just complying with OSHA. We wouldn't have that opportunity if we didn't have the project safety, subcontractor safety committees and project safety committees to bounce those ideas off of. And I mentioned incentive programs. I think they're key to really any behavioral change. And we established several of them for safety years ago based on a world-class safety assessment. We have a Caught Safe program that identifies unique individuals or crews that are working above and beyond out on the job sites for a spot incentive, whether it's a Caught Safe t-shirt or a gift card to the local coffee shop. Real small tokens, but they go a long way. We recognize individuals on projects or Project of the Month for their efforts in going above and beyond safety with Project of the Month safety lunches. And annually, we recognize a couple different people within the firm, one from the office and one from the field, that really go above and beyond and become safety champions for us. So we recognize them through an incentive program as well. We have a lot of recognition that we do in 1 week in the year, and that's our annual safety week. We've been doing this for well over a decade now. The first week of May that comes around every year is very busy for us, but we try to really promote safety. And The first week that we did this, we came up with a slogan of work safe, play safe, and live long. And that's really kind of been at the core of all the decisions we've made since 2010 with our first safety week, as we establish our protocols, our process, our procedures, and our annual safety weeks. Is how do we advance environmental health and safety in all things that we do for all people that we can affect positively. And Safety Week is at the core of that first week in May. And from that week, we see tens of thousands of different people participating in different events, tons of recognition going on out there, out on our job sites, in all of our offices. So it helps to really drive that culture of safety throughout not just Shawmut, but beyond, with our partners, with our clients, et cetera. And we're creating and cultivating more and more safety champions every year. That's where we think we can try on new things. And that's where we want to bring on technology. So we've got an engaged workforce that is communicating often around safety and expectations. But it's often not enough, right? We've probably all seen a lot of the charts over the years that incidents and fatalities, really for the last 2 decades, have kind of stayed flat. We haven't seen this drastic reduction. And so all of you at this conference are probably in the same boat that I am, that we need a disruptor. And we cannot just continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We know what that is. And so I think that technology needs to be an absolute part of this disruption to environmental health and safety, and to really advancing people's lives in a positive way. But that's hard to do. And in the business world, we have probably all heard the expression fail fast. And when we think about failing fast in the EHS space, that means that we're allowing people to try on different things, but have the potential for exposing themselves for danger, potentially getting hurt or worse, or major property damage, et cetera. So how do we fail fast in the EHS space? I think it's with technology. And when Shawmut, approaches, new technology and innovation, we try to do it with a very nimble approach. And our approach is simple: just to buy it and try it. And I don't mean buy it, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the next new thing, rolling it out full enterprise-wide. If you've tried that, as I have, you've probably failed, as I have. Anytime you want to change something overnight, especially with larger companies, it's probably going to fail. And you have to expect that. So our mentality, our philosophy around buy it and try it is really simple. Keep it as short and sweet as possible. Start on one project. Find a safety champion, an innovation champion that says, that sounds like a great idea, I want to try it. Better yet, give them the opportunity to have the idea themselves. Come back to us. Those project safety committees, the subcontractor safety committees, regional safety committees, corporate safety steering committees, all of them with their own cross-functional teams provide an abundance of champions of safety that are out there in the market place, working with different people, hearing about different ideas. When those ideas come up and they want to be the champion for it, let them run with it. And that's what we do. We've done a lot of different pilots. Many have worked, others haven't. And so on the screen, what you can see is just some of the software and hardware companies that we've worked with in the past, that we're working with today. And what's really neat about some of these and our approach, we've started out with many of them on just one job, some on a couple projects because it made sense with the right safety champions, et cetera. A lot of them didn't work. And so after getting through the project, we say, it's not working, we're going to sunset this idea. But the one thing that I'm pretty proud of at Shawmut is our willingness to listen again. If that company wants to stay in touch and find another opportunity, take some feedback, maybe make some change, come back to us again, we'll find another project, we'll try it again. And that's a pretty innovative spirit that so many folks at Shawmut have. It's exciting. Some of these software companies and hardware companies have stuck. They've worked so well that we've gone from one project to 3, really seeing some valuable data coming out of them, and said, you know what, this is working so well. Let's go ahead and roll this out to more projects. Let's go from the New York region to West, and let's get their feedback. It continues to go well. Let's find a couple projects in New England region. Continues to go well. Let's advance the projects to a full enterprise-wide rollout. Obviously, there's change management that comes into that, but once you have these cultivators of safety, champions throughout the organization, they're going to be amplifying the message more than I can. And so they're going to be sharing that information, the success stories, as much as they can. And so they're going to get more people kind of bought into to trying these products out. Currently, what we're looking at is subcontractor qualifications, observation tools, training and communication, including orientation and induction, and risk management. At a high level, those are the items that we're currently looking at. We're doing that by looking at some software companies and hardware companies, and there's pros and cons to both. But ultimately, what we need to do is get the right data and information so we can make good decisions. And so what you can see on your screen is the power of the data that we currently have. It comes to us from a variety of sources, but what you can see here is that at the time of creating this presentation, Shawmut as a whole was at a 91% grade on a 100-point scale for safety. So when we look at that grade, it's a formula that we created in-house, coming to us from a variety of sources, all weighted differently depending on their value, quite frankly, their leading indicators and lagging indicators, but kind of bubble up to one score. And it makes it simple. And that one score for a 91 is Shawmut's total score for all operations that we're looking at for safety. That score then goes down a level to individual regions. From the regions, the business lines. From the business lines, the market sector, all the way down to the project and then to individual contributors. So that information comes all the way from the top down, but it's really fed from the bottom up, watching and seeing the engagement levels of individual contributors on at the firm and how they're what they're seeing, what they're doing for safety, and to make sure that we're a better place. The data comes from a variety of sources, and as long as it's actionable, then we're going to continue to use it. And that's where the pilot programs come in to allow us the opportunity to see, is there more data that we could be capturing? And that's the reason that we're open to so many new products. We're using plenty now, but we're open to so many new products to get more information, particularly around leading indicators. We have some I'd like to capture more digitally. We still use a lot of pen and paper. And so to capture more digitally will give us more actionable results. And so when we see these numbers come up, they go into our Microsoft Power BI system, and a little snapshot of what we capture is on the screen here. And then we can analyze this data. We can review it with business leaders, identify where more resources are needed to help support operations to make sure that people have the tools they need to be successful. It really gives us that opportunity to make change before an incident happens. And I got to say, I think it's working. When we look at our results annually, we've seen a pretty good decline in incidents. Last year, we saw a pretty steep decline from 2019 into 2020 with over 50% reduction in OSHA recordable injuries out on our job sites. And when I talk about that, I do mean anything that happens on our sites. We're a construction manager. We have some self-perform groups, but we employ tens of thousands of subcontractor employees every year. And so we track everything that happens on our site. So an over 50% reduction in 1 year's time does tell us that we are seeing a significant return on our investment, the efforts we're making to driving our culture of safety, to using technology, to being innovative, and for looking for continuous improvement. We've seen over a 20% increase in total safety engagement with our staff alone. That's really exciting. That means that nearly 20 people in safety are out doing their job, being subject matter experts. But we're also seeing so many more people within the firm actively discussing, talking, and engaging with safety. Really, that's driven, a lot of these results. So seeing that over 20% engagement has really led to some really positive numbers, obviously, and we think the future is just going to continue in this trend. Ultimately, again, getting to our goals of not only 0 incidents on our job sites, but truly engaged, informed workplace that leaves better than how they arrived. A lot of work to do, far from done. Continuous improvement is just that. And so we're on the journey. We're going to be on this journey for a very long time, and we can never stop. Just because it's safety, and the second that you take your mind off of it and think that you've achieved your goals, that's when you'll get that bad phone call of another incident. And so it's something we just have to always be concerned with, worried about, thinking about. And in order, again, to have this culture that we have, comprised of all these different committees and different people thinking about it, I think we're in a good position to share information in real time and act on the results in real time to hopefully get to our goals. That's all I have for you today. Hope you have a great, safe day. Hope you enjoy the conference. And if you ever need anything, let me know. Take care.